We're here in season 2, and this episode is chapter 22. It's all about leaning into alignment, building a business that truly reflects you and your true self. We're sitting down with Erika Hartman. She's a life and alignment coach who's on a mission to help people step into their most fulfilled and aligned and powerful selves. Erika's journey is one of deep transformation, which we talk all about, and not just in her own life, but in the lives of countless people who she's worked with. With over a decade of experience in leadership development, education, and transformational coaching, her ability to guide people towards clarity, confidence, and self discovery is so beautiful. In this episode, we talk about how easy it is to fall into autopilot, choosing paths based on what we think we're supposed to do rather than what truly aligns with us. Erika shares her own experiences of breaking out of that cycle with us. She talks all about the impact of comparison in the digital age and how shifting your mindset can unlock opportunities you never thought possible, especially when it comes to unpacking what it means to be your true self and making sure you're guiding your decisions with core valued colored glasses. So let's dive in. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Small Biz Diaries, the podcast where we peel back the layers and unpack what it's really like to be a small business owner, entrepreneur, the struggles, the mindset shifts, everything. As you already heard, I'm here with a wonderful guest, Erika. She's the founder of Life Gains. She's a life and alignment coach here with us. So today we're talking about leaning into alignment and really building a business that reflects your true self. So as a life and alignment coach, one of the perfect people to speak towards this topic. And I would love to start off if you could elaborate for us what alignment means to you and or how you would describe it to clients, just to kind of set the tone for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So every person in the world has a set of core values, whether they've identified them or not. We all live by this internal value system. And so living in alignment often means living in alignment with those core values. Okay. So it could also be living in alignment to a couple other things. You could live in alignment to what you believe your purpose is, right? But often that would still fall under maybe what some of your core values are. So a core value of mine is service. And my job is in service to others. That's just something that I believe strongly in, is providing a service to others. And so living in alignment often means that my profession is in a service-based profession, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I love the reference to core values because I feel like it's oftentimes things that we can come back to when, we're feeling astray or when we're going through a big decision with your business or outside of your business and things like that. So that's a perfect way to set the tone. And I would love to hear about how you got started with being a life and alignment coach for folks to hear your story.
Okay, well, obviously, as every entrepreneur, they have a long story. So I'll give you the short and dirty of it. I originally went to school and got a degree in education with a background in education. And outside of college, I was hired by an international leadership organization. And I worked at that organization from being an intern to a course director. And the purpose of this organization is to help essentially groups of people or individuals get from point A to point B. So they come in at point A and they have a certain set of goals or outcomes that they would like to have. And it's our job to get them there through a series of activities that we facilitate and experiences that we facilitate. So that is originally what brought me into the coaching world, even though that wasn't my title there. That's a lot of what the instructors do, is coach. And I had a number of jobs after that kind of continued to funnel me into becoming a life coach. And every job that I had that wasn't even in the world of coaching, I worked retail jobs or I was a nanny, and I worked in a medical office, all of these things, it kept coming back to me that my strength in those jobs, great, I could sell some clothes at the retail job, but there was this young girl that also worked there that kept seeking advice from me. And I was like, there's something here for this. And so that kind of bred the life coaching part of it. The alignment part is something that has grown near and dear to my heart as I've actually become an entrepreneur and just in my later adult life. I feel like I made a lot of choices for other people or because that's what I thought I was supposed to be doing, including taking other jobs that weren't really what I wanted to do, but I
Mhm.
thought that's what I was supposed to be doing. And then in turn, I realized that the more that I lived in alignment to the things that I valued and I cared about and I needed, the better that my business did, the happier that I was, the healthier that I was. So it kind of like all blended together at the end, being a life and alignment coach.
Yeah, it ended up aligning for you too. And I think it's important to mention that you kind of were trying to be intuitive to those things that you were doing or strengths that you had outside of your day-to-day job, right? Like being in tune with the fact that you were giving advice and that people were coming to you and saying like, "Oh, this is something that is great. You helped me with this." Because I think that that's a big part of it too is oftentimes we can be on autopilot with our lives, like whether it's inside a business just because you're so in it on a day-to-day basis or whether it's just with life.
But
So being in tune with other components going on around you, like friends and family, just in general, like how you're feeling, reflecting on certain things and kind of going off of that to really try to shape those core values. I'm sure, or it sounds like it helped you, right?
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think that that was really well said. Truly. Yeah, that was a very good insight. Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
no, it's true. And speaking of that, towards like how you've had your experience kind of going into alignment with your business, what's been the tough part navigating that? Like going from, something that you weren't doing full time to now doing something full time, which is right. You're doing
Yeah.
life gains full time now. Yeah, which is huge, a huge milestone for any entrepreneur. So yeah, how did the alignment piece fit into all of that in that journey?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So the job that I had right before this, I worked at a medical center. And it was like a 9 to 5 office job. And yeah, I mean, I feel like my whole life was on autopilot. And I was choosing lots of things, not because they aligned with me, but because I thought that's what I had to do. Like I thought that's just what I should be doing. And it took me a moment to ask myself those questions that you had before. It was like, how does this make me feel? And try to really reflect on the choices that I'm making and if they serve me and if they're good for me and kind of like shake myself out of the bad habit that I had of like doing things out of a survival mode or because that's what everybody else was doing. Yeah, and started really questioning what I wanted my life to look like. I mean, the more that I stepped into who I was, the more that reflected on my in my business and on my business in general. I mean, I was just happier with the choices that I was making. I definitely got a lot of energy back, which I feel like is really big for an entrepreneur. A lot of times we maybe feel burnt out at some of the tasks that we have. And it was really nice to like the more I leaned into my alignment and leaned into what I was really supposed to be doing, I saw success and then I was able to make that transition. My goal was to make the same amount of income that I was making at that job to replace
Mhm.
my job. And I did that right before. It was like a little bit before I had fully replaced my income. I made the leap knowing that I maybe wasn't going to be able to replace the income right away, but with the extra time and energy and the like momentum that I had built,
Yeah.
especially around alignment, yeah, I just kind of felt like it was going to be the right time to fall into place.
Yeah. Thank you for breaking that down because I feel like it's an important part of like the context of your journey. But do you feel like it's hard for people nowadays to really step out of the autopilot mode? Yeah, walk us like what does that look like from your experience?
Yeah, being on autopilot, I would say is probably like high 90% of the population. To be like not on autopilot in some ways means that you're like awake to your own to everything, to your strengths and maybe also to your weak points. Yeah, and I feel like becoming awake is a really hard thing to do. I honestly think that becoming an entrepreneur helps you in this journey. I think a lot of entrepreneurs have some of these things that maybe somebody who's not an entrepreneur doesn't have because being an entrepreneur is like the world's best mirror, right? Like
Yeah.
if something doesn't go right in your business, it's like a direct reflection onto you and like a place that you can improve, right? And
Mhm.
same thing, like when everything is going well, it's like that's all on you. But that's a hard mirror to sometimes look at, but that looking in that mirror helps create some of that alignment. It also helps shake you out of that autopilot, because you realize that you're not maybe as happy or as healthy or as successful as you could be with the habits that you have. And like, I mean, we could be on autopilot for anything. You could wake up in the morning and not even realize that you're like sitting on your phone for 20 minutes, right? Like
Yeah.
you're not thinking before you're doing. You don't have intention behind all of your actions in the day. You're just like going to do whatever. And then you realize, like, maybe even at the end of your day, you didn't do that much stuff. Autopilot can like cause you harm in your relationships, in your business. And getting like awake to that takes a person ready to look in the mirror and say, I'm not really great at that. And I need to improve there. That's on me. Nobody else can be blamed for that. It's my responsibility to now change it so I can be better. Yeah, it takes certain people to want to do that. It changes your life for the better for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
I'm sure
everybody in the
I'm
world
sure yeah, I'm sure some people even listening might be like, "Oh, that sounds scary." Like, looking
wants.
in the mirror, having to reflect, and it's true, though. I mean, it brings out your strengths, your weaknesses, even more heightened when you're a business owner, entrepreneur. But it is such an important part of it because if you're just doing things to do things, or you're just not thinking about, is this making me happy, or is this serving my clients, or is this, is the intention for this coming from the right place, then
Yeah,
you're really just taking one foot in front of the other without really knowing what direction you're going to go in.
absolutely.
Um,
It's like freaking blind at that point, right? Like you're literally might as well have a blindfold on.
right, right, exactly. So it's so important to do that. But I think because of social media, or just like constantly getting exposed
Mm,
to different things online, you almost have this constant feeling that you're behind, or that you're supposed to be doing something else, or that because of, another person that's like, let's say you're a photographer, another person that's a photographer is doing something their way, that you should be doing that as well. So I feel
mm.
like because we're so exposed to so many different things, then it's easier to get lost in the mix.
Oh my God, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. I saw some video the other day that was talking more about like relationships or no, not even about relationships, just in general. And it was essentially being like the only people you used to compare yourself to were your neighbors. Like you
Mhm.
weren't exposed to so many people doing so many different things. And something that I try to work with my clients on a lot is like having that tunnel vision for like what your alignment and your goals are in order to keep you on that track. Yeah, because it's easy to kind of just be like a leaf in the wind, especially when you're online, right? With like trends that are online, even, right? Like the need to like feel like you have to keep up with everything can be really exhausting. But the funny thing is that like the more authentic you are and the more yourself you are and the less on autopilot you are, the more people are attracted to you because there's something so magnetizing about somebody. Like people can feel that on camera, people can feel that when you're working with them. And there's something so attractive and magnetizing about somebody who really is like in it for themselves. And I don't mean in like a bad business sense of like, of course I want to serve my clients, but like I'm here to also, because this is my purpose. Like this is
Mhm.
my tunnel vision. I really want to be here. And this like aligns with me. Yeah. So I feel like that's significant too.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. Have you, based off of like your clients or just experiences, are there certain tips that have worked for people in terms of just trying to get a little bit more grounded or centered, or just creating that tunnel vision for yourself? What would you suggest or recommend?
Yeah. Start to build self trust. Keep promises to yourself. When you say you're going to do something, do it. Follow through with the things that you know you need to do. There's a quote that says, like, the only regrets in life we have are not doing what we know we're supposed to do when we know we're supposed to do it. And I feel like that has really resonated with me because you do really know what to do. Like, you know, deep down what to do. You have to be honest with yourself, but you do know what to do. And if you don't know what to do and you feel extra lost and stuck, then seeking support from friends, family, and professionals is definitely what else I recommend. Our brains do and are exposed to a lot of comparison, and it can make you feel really bad about yourself. And it's important to have a different narrative in your head, right? It's important to believe in yourself, to have support around you, to learn to love yourself and take care of yourself. Those are like the foundations, I feel like, to being the best version of ourselves that we can be. Um,
Yeah, I recently heard this fact and like analogy that, a lot of this stuff is from us from way back when, right? Like a herd mentality or like a tribal mentality. Like when we were, our ancestors, we used to not want to be different. They were too different from our tribe, right? Because it would alienate us or like make us feel, like they're going to kick us out of the tribe.
100%.
So it's almost like we're constantly trying to like fit ourselves into a mold or just try to like keep that. But that was during a time where we were in survival mode, right? Like the things that people had to deal with way back when for fight or flight are very different in terms of what we're dealing with now.
But
So it's almost like
know the difference. That's the crazy part. Like, I love what you're saying because, like, our bodies, like, that is the world that our bodies know. Our brains understand we're like on a podcast and we're like talking even though we're in a different state, right? Like, our brains logically know this, but our bodies literally think that we like eat berries in a field and like live in a cave and like hunt. Like, that's what our bodies literally think. Like, so of course, when like we get broken up with or we lose clients, we go into this fight or flight because there's like a disconnect between our brains and our bodies in that capacity. Our bodies, evolutionarily speaking, are the exact same. Our brains have evolved, but like our bodies, like this is the same thing. Yeah. So I love that you said that. I sometimes think that's really freeing for people to recognize and that information can be like really valuable. So I'm so glad you
exactly,
said
yeah. Just to rewire or like you said, rewrite that narrative or shift the narrative a little bit and know, this no longer serves me. Like this stress response is not to the magnitude that it needs to be because I know contextually speaking that this is not a big deal, even though my brain thinks it is and is releasing all these kinds of hormones to go into fight mode.
yeah.
So it's almost like a small bit by bit, like rewiring of that, and then doing things like you mentioned to help you with that, like whether it's referencing, core values in a moment like that, or friends or family, or I mean, anything, meditation, going outside. There's so many things that work for so many different people, but I definitely think that there's a big component of that needs to be said because everybody experiences it to some degree. It's just a matter of like trying to navigate it within your context, like whether it's your business, outside your business, etc.
Yeah, we're all seeking safety, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
like, our nervous system is designed to keep us safe. And so, in a lot of instances, yeah, like being different from a group of people meant that we were maybe going to be ostracized from that group. And when we were alone, we had a lot less chance of survival than when we're with a group,
Yeah.
right? But in today's age, like standing out is kind of like a part of the recipe to success. And so, yeah, being able to have that like logical conversation with yourself, like, I am safe. It's, you know what I mean? Like, letting yourself know that all of these things are okay, like, and that it's not what it used to be. And that, yeah, your mind and body are safe can be really helpful.
Yeah. I'm curious with your journey, was there a point where you were, really struggling with your alignment to figure things out? Like, what did that look like for you? Just because,
Oh,
kind of go back the layers. We all go through it, but let's talk about it.
yeah. Oh my God. I definitely, I mean, I was married once and I'm not married anymore. I would say it wasn't that the moment wasn't aligned, but it wasn't meant to be. And after my divorce, I really didn't want to. Divorce has like a lot of negative connotation to it. I don't carry that anymore. But at one point in my
Yeah.
life, it was really hard for me to not feel like a failure. And so I made a lot of decisions based off of what I thought other people would accept because I
Mm,
just felt like I needed to be accepted by others and I needed to be, and that was a way to be successful, right? We're taught when we're young, being accepted by others is good. Like that
right.
helps equal success, right? And so, yeah, I really struggled. I made a lot of choices that I shouldn't make. I made a lot of choices, yeah, that just really were not in service of me. I was people pleasing to everybody. So that looked like nobody being happy because like I was trying to please literally everyone and that's not freaking possible. Yeah, I got myself really deep into a relationship that was super unhealthy and I stayed for way too long because I didn't want to seem like a failure again. Yeah, I've made some pretty big choices in my life, not fully in autopilot, but not awake and aware. I'm
Yeah.
definitely out of that survival state and just trying to hang on. I will say through that darkness, the light of my business was born. Because at one point I just like hit a moment of being really sick of my own like bullshit. I don't know if I can swear. Sorry if you have to edit that.
No, it's fine.
Yeah. And I realized like how much power and control I really did have over those things. So like I felt really out of control when I was on autopilot, when I was living really unaligned. I like just didn't understand what my life was going to look like in the future. And I really didn't have a vision for that because I didn't really like where my life was.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, yeah, made every choice. I've taken jobs, I've been in relationships, I've been put myself through the ringer when I
Yeah.
wasn't living in alignment.
And you're
Yeah.
like, "Which one do you want? How many?" You have a laundry
Really,
list.
really, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a part of why I feel like a life coach suits me. Like, yeah, made a lot of wrong turns in my life before I made the right ones.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that because obviously we all have moments, but having that vulnerability and just willing to, express it and share it, I feel like you never know who it could help. So I just really appreciate you sharing that. It's important in the sense that as a life coach and alignment coach, going through your own motions and your own kind of like struggles and things like that, and you're there to help support and really like bridge the gap for people if needed and all of this stuff. And that kind of leads me to my question. What would you say, or how would you describe a life coach? Because I still feel like there's a lot of people who may not fully know or may not fully understand the benefits. And I think it's important to highlight.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I love this question because I agree. And I think as we're becoming as a society more welcoming to different types of healing, I think it's important to understand like what your options are so that way you can be the healthiest and happiest version of yourself. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a life coach, but I'm also going to compare it to a therapist, okay? Like in a good way because I feel like this is a helpful thing because I feel like some people don't quite understand the difference. And that's like a
Yeah.
big decision that they're making. Okay. So a life coach and a therapist share a lot. And the things that they share are creating a safe space. So that way you can talk about what is happening in your life and you have support for that. And the goal is for you to accomplish whatever your goals have, right? Like the purpose of having a life coach or a therapist is to help them provide you with something that you need and you want. So, like, that's a lot of similarities that they share. I would say a life coach is a little bit more future focused than a therapist. A therapist is somebody that will hold space and wants to hold space for things that have happened in your past. So they want a lot of processing time, right? Like there could be things that you're currently experiencing or have experienced that you need space for, right? Because
Mm,
maybe when the initial event or events happened or like things unfolded, you didn't have the support or processing time that you needed. And now
right.
that's impacting you. Right? Maybe you're not sleeping well, you're not making great decisions, whatever it is. And so you kind of just need to like maybe understand this more and have clarity and have a space to discuss. Some people that are in therapy are also good for life coaches. And some people that are in therapy are not. And this is the reason why. So some people just need processing time. Maybe something has happened that's been really significant and they just need space, right? Then there are other people who are like, this thing happened and I want to talk about it, but I also am really ready to like move into the next thing. Like it's not just a wound that needs attention. It's like, I'm ready to like wrap up the bandage and keep going kind of thing because like there has maybe been some processing time. So a life coach is a little bit more future focused. It's not that there won't be processing time for your past, but the purpose of a life coach is to get you to a point B, right? Is to say, great, like you have these specific goals and to hold you accountable. And I feel like a life coach challenges you. And not everybody in every therapeutic setting is ready to be challenged. Some
Yeah.
people just to be heard. And that's so beautiful and amazing. And I'm not saying a life coach can't do that. They can. Life coaches can have different specialties, just like therapists could have different specialties and work on your future with you. This is like very generalized, very, very generalized, which is why you should like investigate who you are looking to work with. Yeah, a life coach is really somebody that helps you accomplish those big goals that you have. Maybe you're in a big transition, you want to switch jobs, you're looking to leave a 9 to 5, you're getting divorced, you want to start dating and maybe it's been a while, or maybe you want to be single and don't know how. You have something
Mm,
like kind of concrete that you're like, this specific thing, I'm like, yeah, let's make moves on. Want to make more money, that kind of stuff is really great for coaching versus like, maybe a processing of trauma would be more closely related to a therapist.
yeah. Wow. I've never heard it explained to that extent to really express the different components of them, the similarities and the differences, and the context surrounding them as well. Like, having a life coach help you from point A to point B, or, having certain milestones that you're going through that you just need guidance on. So thank you. Yeah, that was helpful for me too.
Absolutely.
um, Yeah. And I know we mentioned this before, or we talked about this, but a lot of your clients are, high achievers, or, looking to either start a business or already have a business or have that component of it. So, what would you say outside of like alignment are things that people struggle with when it comes to, building a business or starting a business?
Imposter syndrome is probably the number one. Yeah, lack of self trust would be another one, or like a lack of belief in yourself, even. So, not even just trust, but like, yeah, those I would say are things that people struggle with. People don't realize that the dream that is your biggest dream is too small. Like, it truly is too small, and you should be thinking 10 times bigger than that. Yeah. And so, that belief in yourself, like when you're an entrepreneur, it's important to dream big and think big because the world is really an option for you, right? And that's like the life you're trying to create for yourself. And so it's really important to have a lot of trust in yourself and belief in yourself. And when those things waver, people can tell and they feel that in their business. And so I feel like people come. I mean, other things like organization, right? Or communication, things like that are like more classic and have
Yeah.
like some more different, like concrete tools for. But the things that really like eat away at people are like really imposter syndrome or lack of confidence, those kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised, but because it's something that's an everyday struggle sometimes, is even people who have gone through, whether it's therapy or a life coach to help you work through this, like there are certain triggers that come up that like will surface your imposter syndrome a bit more, even though you have worked on it substantially. So it never goes away per se. It's more of just like going through the motions in a very intentional way when it does come up. So yeah, that's all to say that we're constantly going through this process as
Totally.
entrepreneurs and just in general. And I think that like with that being said, if someone were to want to like lean into alignment within their business or within themselves outside of, trying to gather those core values, or maybe even in order to gather those core values, what would you recommend them to do? Where would they start?
Honestly, if you just heard of core values or you're like thinking about it and you're like, wow, I don't know what mine are, I would honestly just go online and Google all the different core value words that come up and look through a very large list of them. Like, don't just pull up the first list, like keep digging and seeing, what else is out there, and then spend 5 to 10 minutes. And I do 5 core values with my clients. I feel like that's a good number. You don't have to do 5. It could be less than that and it could be more than that. Sometimes think more than that is starting to get like, okay, well, we got to like pick the real, like it's got to be like ride or die, right? Like these are like, oh, this is me. Yeah. So 5, I feel like is a good amount. If you need 6, that's fine. If you only got 4, that's good too. Or even 3. But yeah, and start to think about what are like the things that are most important to you, right? Like maybe integrity is really important to you, or like another one of mine is authenticity, and that came and was brewed from my time in being out of alignment, because prior to being out of alignment there was a stage in my life where I was very authentic and very myself, and then I kind of like that kind of shattered a little bit. And so I refound that and I was like, well, authenticity is really important to me. Like me being me and finding other people that are also like unapologetically authentic is like my jive. That's my thing. And I care about helping people be authentic. So like that's a core value of mine. So like spend 5 to 10 minutes picking out 5 core values and write out why they're your core value. Why is that so important to you? Is there a specific thing in your life that happened? Is it like a repeating lesson for you? Why? And just start there. Yeah, and create your core value list and see what happens. I mean, there's obviously
Yeah.
other steps to take after that, such as like learning how to embed them into your life more often. But I think that building awareness is the most important first step to anything, right? We can want to make change really quick, but like change has stages to it. And like one of the first things of changing and like creating a new version of yourself is to even just become aware of some of these things. So yeah, I would start there.
Yeah. And just even I'm sure that practice within itself helps you reflect and like narrow things down and start thinking about, maybe past decisions that you've made and what if those values were tied to those decisions and how you felt surrounding that. And I feel like you'd be surprised after you start, writing this down. I'm sure right afterwards, because of the awareness component, you almost start like being more mindful of that moving forward. And even if it's like I know I've seen people like have sticky notes with, values or just quotes and
Mhm.
things like that to like really help you start living within that space. And generally speaking, I'm sure attracting that energy or, kind of bringing in opportunities that kind of align with that as well. So, yeah, it's a perfect step one, I think, and
Yeah,
on so many levels. So, yeah, I think that's a great way to start. So, whoever's
totally.
listening, know your core values. I feel like I need to revisit mine.
Do sometimes. I mean, they
Mhm.
change, we evolve as people. So yeah, sometimes they shift and change.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you shared a few of yours too, because that's helpful for folks just to like get a sense of what components of it they could think about within their own journeys. And I also think you could have values for yourself that end up stemming off to your business that, reflect it a little bit differently, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's a really good point to make is that your personal core values and your business core values can be different, right?
Yeah.
But I would say that if you're an entrepreneur and that's your own business and you don't have any other partners, I would probably say that some of your core values are present in your business values as well. But that's a great activity to do for your business. Yeah, it's a good like lens, right? We can put on all these different lenses. Like people talk about rose colored glasses. So like one
Mhm.
of the lenses that you can pick up can like literally be your core values and that can like guide you to know what serves you and what doesn't.
Yeah, no, that visualization was perfect. Like you're about to make a decision, just try to put on your core value glasses and see what surfaces when you start
Yeah.
thinking about like making that decision. I love that. And we talked about this, we're both visual people, so I feel like that specifically will help me consistently moving forward. But yeah, thank you. Well, just to kind of like wrap things up a little bit in the sense of you and your journey, there's three questions we always like to ask our guests at the very end because of the fact that, we really want to hone in on the small business component side, but also the struggles that come with it. So, first question is what's something that you feel like you're currently struggling with or working through as a small business owner?
Yeah, that's a great question. I just redid my like schedule for myself in a day. I was kind of having this moment, as an entrepreneur, you're like, oh, well, I have free time sometimes, right? And I used to really like to work out in the middle of the day. And then I was like having this really bad cycle of realizing that like I was working out, but there were other things, technically speaking, that were probably of higher priority. Your physical health is very important, but like I can work out at 8 o'clock at night, let's say. I mean, I know that's really late, but like my brain doesn't really work that late, right? Like I'm not
Yeah.
doing computer work that late all the time. And so I kind of had to have that like honest conversation with myself that like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym at the busy time at the end of the day that everybody's going. Like I go at like 5:30 and I'm literally there with like everybody that like is coming off of work from their like
Yeah.
actual 9 to 5. And I'm like working at home all day, but that has helped me so much because, I know that my brain works best earlier in the day and that as the day continues, my like discipline and self-focus weans a little bit more and I'm like definitely more open to errors. I can take calls with clients late at night, but anything like computer oriented, I don't feel like is a good idea for me to do. So, yeah, I started shifting my schedule around. That was like a really long-winded answer. My other ones will be shorter.
No, that's fine. It's important for you to, speak towards it regardless of the length. So, yeah, I mean, that's a huge one. And recognizing that it's like really not jiving with your routine, you know? Thank you. And then second question is, what does it mean for you when someone supports your small business journey or entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah. Oh my God, this is a great question. Okay. One of the first things that I think about is like classically, you have two types of friends. One type of friend is going to ask you for a discount, and the other one's going to be like, can I pay full price? Like, how do I give you extra money? Like, and it's not about money. That's just like the example that I'm thinking
Yeah.
of. Right. And so I think what it means is for like to support a small business, for like friends to support it, is for them to like really truly support me. They're not looking to like use me for my service. They understand that like I'm really trying to make something and I want to be like seen in my hard work. I want to
Mm,
be like acknowledged for where I'm at. Yeah, because I think a lot of people just like think it's maybe easy or like whatever it is, whatever like negative connotation they carry. I want to be seen for my effort.
yeah, I love that. That hit for me. And then third question is, what advice would you have for anyone who is looking to either start their own business or is on like doing side hustle and trying to start it? What would you give for advice?
Yeah. Oh my God, there's so many things running through my head. The first one that does come to mind, and this isn't just because this is what I do, but this is because this has changed my life, but like get the support that you need, whatever that looks like. Like, don't just try to do everything yourself. Like, if you need something in your life and you need whether it's like support, like you literally need somebody to help you with organization or whatever, or you need somebody to like unload off onto or whatever it is, like get the support that you are looking for because it's really hard to do it alone. And you don't need to do it alone. You don't need to feel lonely. You don't need to struggle. It doesn't need to be so hard. It actually can be easy and it can be enjoyable. And when you share the experience with others and you feel like there's somebody else out there looking out for you who like supports you and really truly wants to see you do well, like that can give you so much. That can give you motivation. It can give you discipline. It can give you ideas, all things that you need. It can give you energy. And you
Yeah.
need an abundance of these things in order to be an entrepreneur. Honestly, that's just, it's made my job. I love my job because of that. I like can see the effects with people. And I'm not obviously the only one who does what I do or offers support. I mean, anybody in any healing, anybody that identifies as like a healer or a coach or anything is somebody that can provide something for you. Yeah, and if you feel like you need that or that would be good, don't second guess it. Don't let your brain be like, you can just do it on your own or that's too much money. What is it worth to you though? Like, do you want to spend 5 years? One of my clients wrote this on a piece of feedback. I thought this was great because it's good for anybody looking for support. Do you want to spend 5 years getting the same answers that you could get in one? Like, what kind of struggle do you want? Do you want to struggle more or do you want to help yourself? You know, and to kind of like hold that mirror up and look at yourself and be like, what do I need?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my
You
advice.
beat me you beat me to it. I was gonna bring up the mirror again, because I definitely think that that's what it reminds me of, is just really trying to, you know, reflect and look within and see what it is you might need. And sometimes we can't give it to ourselves. Like we can't be the ones that fulfill that. Like someone else has to help guide us through that. And that's totally fine too.
Yeah.
But yeah, Erica, this has been so lovely. I know I took a lot from this, so I really can't wait for everybody else to listen and tune in. But I'll make sure to leave all of Erica's contact information to connect with her here in the descriptions of the video and of the audios. So yeah, just make sure you connect with her. And I really appreciate your time, Erica. This has been just great. Anything else that you want to leave us off with, or anything else that you want to mention when it comes to people connecting with you?
If you connect with me, I'll be so excited to meet you. Please reach out. If you're at all have like a kind of inkling about it, just do it. Say hi. I'll say hi back for sure. And yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity to be on this podcast. I appreciate it. And I think that what you're doing is really amazing. I think that this is a community of people who have a lot of common experiences and they often do feel alone in those experiences. So it's nice to have a place where people can come and feel less alone.